Hello, you who are hearing this right now, this isn't an accident. I don't know exactly where you are on your journey, but I do know something is about to unfold in your life and it will change everything. Two things will leave, one will arrive, and after that you will never be the same person again. This isn't an empty prophecy. It's a map written in the light you forgot you were carrying. You felt it already, haven't you, that vague uneasiness, that quiet shift in the air, people slipping away without explanation, old situations suddenly feeling too tight, too small. You think you're losing control, but in truth, the universe is taking back the lead. And to begin this journey, we need to return to the place where everything started. Because when coincidences stop being random, it's the moment your soul is being called by name. And that's where we begin. Right here, right now. Aries, if you've been quietly observing your life lately, you may have started to sense that something feels different. The world around you keeps spinning, yet somehow you are no longer the same. There's been a quiet unease, a vague longing that wakes you in the middle of the night, and you can't quite name it. It's not anxiety. It's the echo of something sacred trying to send you a signal. Some call it the voice of the universe. But maybe it's the voice from the deepest part of you, the part you've forgotten in the noise of everyday life. You thought the recent changes were coincidences, that the people leaving, the doors closing, the missed chances were just bad timing. But what if I told you? The universe doesn't play dice with your life. What if I told you those two goodbyes and the meeting that's about to come are not losses, but a sacred passage? A soul-level transition preparing you for something far greater. There's a principle in Buddhist teachings. To cross to the other shore, you must be willing to let go of the old oar. Not because it's broken, but because the river has changed direction. And sometimes, the only thing we need to do is believe we are worthy of continuing the journey. You are fire-born. You are the sign of Aries, the path clearer. But when was the last time you asked, who's clearing the path for me? You've been leading for so long, carving space for others, shouldering the weight, that you may have forgotten how to be led by something larger, gentler, wiser. Right now, you're standing at a threshold, not a moment in history, but a moment in your soul, a quiet yet powerful turning point, where old definitions of who you are begin to dissolve. No one around you can see it, but you know, you feel it. The universe doesn't need a spotlight to announce a spiritual awakening. It just needs a heart that's quiet enough to listen. And if you're hearing this right now, you're already ready. I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm here to remind you. Your soul chose this path long ago, and everything happening around you, the chaos, the calm, the closings, they're not mistakes. They're mirrors, reflecting the quiet evolution that's already happening within. If you feel lost right now, it's only because the old map no longer fits this new terrain. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just entering an energy you've never met before. And the people drifting away, the places that once felt like home now feel too tight. They're not betraying you. They've simply completed their role. They've made space for what's meant to come next. In their retreat, a sacred space begins to open. A space where you can finally hear yourself, where something new can finally enter. And when the soul is ready, the universe starts moving. Not with noise, not with warning, but with a quiet clarity that whispers. This time feels different. You may feel a tightness in your chest, a quiet ache, something like grief, but also something like relief. Both can exist at once, because you're standing between two worlds, one that's closing and one that hasn't been named yet. You're like a child, about to walk through the school gates for the very first time, excited, terrified, but deep down, your heart knows this is the moment. Where you're going isn't just a new destination. It's a new you, wider, clearer, more honest, and the path to that version of you doesn't begin with a revolution on the outside. It begins with a quiet goodbye on the inside. A goodbye that doesn't need applause, doesn't need tears, only this, a deep enough self-love to whisper, I deserve to live in truth. And then, from somewhere deep in the silence, the first goodbye begins to arrive. Aries, do you remember the last time you walked into a familiar room and suddenly felt like you didn't belong there anymore? Everything looked the same. The lights, the voices, the people who once made you feel safe. But something inside you quietly started to fade. No one hurt you, no one pushed you out, and yet you felt invisible. That feeling wasn't anyone's fault. It was a whisper, a gentle but powerful signal from your soul. It's time. We often cling to the things that once saved us. A job that held you through the storm. A relationship that once felt like home. A place that was once your dream. But sometimes, the very things that once healed you become the cocoon that holds you back. It no longer lets you breathe. It no longer lets you grow. You were born with fire, Aries. A mission to begin, to ignite, to lead. But even fire, if trapped in a space too small, will slowly turn to smoke. And deep down, you know that. You felt that. You may still be telling yourself, I'm fine, I just need to hold on a little longer. But somewhere inside, you already know you don't belong here anymore. Not in this role, not in this connection. This leaving you've been resisting. It doesn't come from selfishness. It comes from truth, from integrity. It's not a betrayal, it's a release. For both sides, because when you're no longer fully yourself, you can no longer fully love. You can no longer fully give. In Buddhist teachings, there's a saying, no one keeps an empty boat once they've crossed the river. And yet you've been holding on. You've held on out of loyalty. You've held on because you didn't want to hurt anyone. You've held on because you didn't want to be seen as someone who gave up. But dear Aries, sometimes the greatest act of courage is not in staying, but in walking away with gratitude. Gratitude for what once was. Gratitude for having the honesty to no longer pretend. This isn't just another goodbye, it's a sacred closing, the end of a chapter that has fulfilled its purpose. And you, the warrior, are being called to a new battlefield, not to fight, but to be reborn. Some may not understand, some may judge you, but remember this, the highest form of loyalty is loyalty to the light within. If you refuse to leave, you're refusing your own evolution. And in time, that refusal will hurt everyone, because you won't be you anymore. Don't wait until things fall apart. Leave when your heart is still soft, when your eyes can still say thank you instead of goodbye with bitterness. Step away with quiet feet and grateful eyes. And if you're wondering, how will I know when I'm ready? The answer is this, you won't know with your mind. You'll know in the silence of your heart, when you stop arguing with yourself. When the thought of leaving brings you peace, not fear. You'll know, picture yourself walking through a forest. There's a small, old wooden bridge, and it leads to the other side. You've stood here a long time. You know that beyond it is new land, where light breaks through the leaves and the sound of water sings soft like a prayer. But you hesitate, because you've been on this side for so long, because you once called it home. But if you stay standing in the middle of the bridge, you won't belong to either side. And that is the deepest kind of pain, to be lost inside your own indecision. So take the step, not because what's over there is better, but because over there is where your soul is meant to go next. And the moment you let go, something else unexpected and gentle will begin to move toward you. There are moments when you pass by a mirror and the person staring back at you no longer feels like you. The face is familiar, but the eyes, they no longer reflect the fire that once burned so brightly. Something inside you has quietly stepped back, making room for silence. But this silence, it isn't peace, it's retreat. You used to walk faster than the crowd, speak a little louder, dream a little bigger, and somewhere along the way, you learn the world is more comfortable when you shrink, when you're softer, when you apologize for your passion, for the light you carry, for the voice that breaks open whenever you believe in something too much. No one forced you to change, but their looks, they were enough to make you question yourself. So you began speaking less, dreaming smaller. You became a version of yourself that others could tolerate, but one that you no longer felt alive in. I see you, and I know you are not weak. You didn't shrink because your dreams disappeared. You did it because you thought keeping the peace mattered more than keeping your truth. But then, one day, your heart knocked again, soft but clear, a knock from deep in your bones. I miss me. And so you began to wake up, not in rebellion but in quiet ache, the ache of a soul that can no longer bear hiding itself. You started feeling uncomfortable in clothes that used to fit just right, lost interest in conversations that used to make you laugh. And slowly you noticed. You were drifting away from a version of you that once felt like home. You don't hate that version. In fact, you're grateful because that version helped you survive, helped you get through the seasons where shrinking felt safer than showing up. But now, you're done surviving. You want to live fully, honestly, unapologetically. Letting go of who you were isn't just a decision, it's a process, an emotional one, like laying to rest a part of your soul that once protected you so fiercely. But you know, its job is complete. It's like a snake shedding its skin, not because the skin is broken, but because it has outgrown it. And that's where you are now. When not fitting in becomes the sign, when pretending no longer feels bearable, when you stop laughing to be polite, stop holding back, stop pretending you don't feel the ache. This isn't a breakdown. This is a return, a shedding full of light. You don't need to become anyone. You just need to stop asking permission to be yourself. If anyone ever made you feel like you were too much, too bold, too sensitive, too dreamy, it's only because they've never seen a flame like yours. And that doesn't mean you should shrink. It means you need to be in places where your light is seen as a gift, not a threat. I want you to remember this. Being true isn't a luxury, it's a responsibility. The more you show up as you, the more you give others permission to do the same. And that can shift an entire generation. You are not lost, you are shedding. You are stepping out of an old shell that no longer fits, and beneath that shell, a new you is taking shape, stronger, softer, and so honest, that the world will pause just to listen. Because right at the moment you step out without a mask, something extraordinary will step in without knocking. Sometimes the thing that shifts the entire course of your life isn't a grand event. It's a look. A single sentence spoken at the right moment. A person who shows up, as if holding the missing piece of a map you've been trying to read for years. You didn't go looking for them, but somehow, your soul had been sending out signals long before, a quiet frequency, reaching someone who could see you not through your mask, not through your titles, but through the energy you carry at your core. This encounter doesn't arrive with fireworks. It doesn't come with background music like in the movies. It happens in the most ordinary way. A familiar cafe, a random seat on a train, a conversation you almost canceled. And suddenly, the space feels still. You feel safe, in a way you can't explain, safe enough. To say things you usually keep hidden. It might not be love, but it's deeper than love. Not exactly a career move, but it might open a whole new chapter of your path. Not a life-altering event, but a sacred marker. Designed by the universe, just for you. They're not here to impress you. They're here to remind you of who you are, what you carry, and what you once longed for before the world taught you to be practical. They don't heal you, but they make you believe you deserve to be healed. They don't dream for you, but they make you brave enough to name your dream again. And when they say something, a sentence so simple, your heart goes quiet, as if time pauses, just so you can hear this one truth. You were never off course. You had just doubted yourself for too long, like a mirror that doesn't distort. This meeting reflects the part of you you've been avoiding, the part that knows you're valuable, that you matter, that your presence holds a mission far bigger than what you've allowed yourself to believe. It's a strange feeling, familiar yet distant, comforting yet terrifying. Because deep down, you know, if you truly believed what this person sees in you, you could never go back to being the smaller version of yourself. And so you hesitate. You start to ask yourself, why do they see that in me? Could they be wrong? What if this is just a passing moment? Because after so many years of proving yourself, of carrying everything alone, of building emotional armor, the softer part of you doesn't trust easily anymore. You've learned not to expect recognition, not to wait for anyone to see you. But secretly, you once wished, even just once, that someone would recognize you without you having to try so hard. And now, when it finally happens, you don't know whether to open your heart or walk away. That isn't weakness. That's a natural response from someone who's lived too long in survival mode. But this fated meeting, it doesn't ask you to change. It only asks you to pause, breathe, and let yourself be seen without rushing to hide, because sometimes a miracle doesn't arrive to fill you up. It arrives to wake up what's been asleep for far too long. This encounter is a spark, not to begin a brand new story, but to help you turn the page, Gently, softly, like your soul had been waiting for the next chapter all along. Because the moment you allow yourself to believe that good things can come easily, you'll feel something quietly shift inside you like a whisper from within, beginning to stir a quiet resistance, rooted not in fear but in instinct. One of the strangest things about blessings is that they don't always look like what we imagined. They don't knock loudly. They don't show up with flashing signs that say, "Here's what you've been praying for." Sometimes they arrive as gently as a breeze, as softly as a whisper, and the first thing they touch isn't joy, it's doubt. You've dreamed of a moment like this, an opportunity that opens without needing to beg, a hand reaching out without you having to prove yourself first, something that comes easier than you ever dared to believe. But the second it arrives, you shrink back, your soul flinches and whispers, "Is this a trap?" You scan the room, look for the catch, ask yourself, "Why me? Why now?" And just like that, you pull yourself one step back, even though your heart had already leaned in. You're not foolish. You're not ungrateful. You're just used to pain being the price of everything good. You were taught that anything worth having must be fought for, bled for, survived. You believed that unless you were hurting, you weren't truly deserving. So now, when the universe chooses to give you something, without the tears, you don't know how to receive it. Let me tell you this, from someone who's lived in defense mode for far too long. Not everything precious has to come from pain. Some miracles arrive when you finally allow yourself to receive, without having to prove a single thing. There is a deep healing in the simplest act, letting go, dropping the armor you've worn for years, setting down the sword you carry everywhere, and allowing the world to meet you not through hardship but through kindness. I know it's scary. Kindness, for many, feels more foreign than anger, because kindness requires you to soften, and soft means breakable. But sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is place your hand over your heart and whisper to yourself, "I deserve to be loved," without having to fight for it. You're being invited into a new frequency, a reality where you no longer need to play the game of proving. You don't need to win to matter. You don't need to be perfect to be held. You just need to be present, open, honest. And that's why the doubt shows up, the final test, not from the universe but from the part of you that still hasn't fully forgiven the past. That part whispers, "What if I trust this and it disappears?" It remembers every time you hoped and were crushed. Every time you believed and were abandoned. And I get it, I truly do, but you also need to know this. Doubt is not truth. It's an old protection mechanism, speaking up one last time before you step into something more evolved. So feel the doubt, acknowledge it, but don't let it steer the ship. Look it in the eye, place your hand gently on its shoulder and say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I can walk this next part on my own." Because on the other side of doubt is not disappointment, it's a gentle flow of peace you once thought only existed in dreams. A wholeness that asks for nothing in return. A feeling of being seen, understood, and held, without having to trade anything for it. You are standing at the edge of a transformation, and the only thing keeping you there is one quiet question. If this really is as good as it feels, can I allow myself to believe it? And I want to whisper this to you as someone who's just a few steps ahead on the road. Try believing this time, not because you're sure, but because you've grown enough to know that believing is the bravest thing you can do right now. Because once you accept that not all miracles require blood and tears, you'll start to hear something, a faint hum in the background, like a new frequency beginning to tune your entire vibration. Big changes in life rarely begin with a bang. They begin with silence, a quiet so deep it almost feels as if nothing is happening at all. But in truth, a transformation is already unfolding at the deepest level of your energy. You start to feel lost in conversations that once felt like home. You still smile, but the excitement is gone. You're there in body, but your heart is wandering somewhere far away, as if your soul has already taken one step ahead, while your body lingers behind, holding on to pieces that have already cracked. No one really understands what you're going through, because on the surface, you're still living, still working, still smiling, still posting, still saying thank you. But inside, you know something has fallen out of your heart, something that can't be put back by anything old. This change is not failure. It's a sign you've outgrown your old coat. A job that was once your dream is now just a title. A relationship that once held you up now blocks your way. A lifestyle that once made sense now feels like it's choking you. You are growing, and no one ever told you growth is one of the loneliest feelings on earth. You feel lost, but in truth, you're leaving an old map behind. A coordinate system that no longer fits your soul. That's why things are falling away, places, people, habits, even dreams you once called sacred. The universe is not destroying you. The universe is setting you free. It's peeling off the hardened shells, the old beliefs you once called safety. The past you still clutch like a habit, because if you keep holding on, you can't step into the next light waiting for you, like a kite. Only when you cut the twigs holding you to the ground can you rise to the sky. You are being retuned. You're no longer sending out the old vibrations, and so you no longer match the spaces you once called home. But that is not a sign you're off track. It's proof you're going deeper. The closer you move to your true self, the less you feel the need to explain, the less you need others to understand, because you're stepping into a place that only requires you to feel, not to justify. You don't have to explain why you're no longer excited by what once lit you up. You don't have to apologize for being silent in a group that used to be your circle. You don't have to feel guilty for stepping back from old conversations, old lifestyles, old definitions of success. Because you're returning to yourself, a version more honest, more profound, more still. Not loud, not proving, just becoming. When you shift your frequency, your life shifts with it. People who no longer resonate will drift away. Situations that no longer serve you will dissolve. Don't fight it. Let it fall away naturally, like dry leaves dropping from a branch in winter, because after winter comes spring, and there you will blossom from a deeper place, a place where you no longer have to shrink to fit an image someone else once placed on you. I know the feeling of being directionless is real, but sometimes it's exactly in that empty space, where you no longer know who you are, that you finally begin to feel who you've always been, like the sound of waves from far away. Suddenly clear, because nothing inside you is drowning it out anymore. And from that stillness, something begins to move. The one thing your soul has been waiting for all along. You've passed through many layers, each layer carrying a loss, a shell falling away, a fracture inside quietly being mended. Sometimes it feels as if you're dissolving, but in truth, you are being reborn, not with a shout, but through the quiet of a soul that no longer needs to prove itself. Looking back now, you can see that everything has a reason. Those 2 goodbyes didn't come to punish you. They came to gently lift you up, away from places that no longer fit you, and that meeting, whether brief or long, was never random. It's the universe's silent nod, as if saying, "Now you remember who you are, don't you?" You once asked permission to exist, apologized for your passion, shrank yourself to soften the light you carried. But today, you no longer need to do that, not because you're rebelling, but because you've grown enough to know. Your light doesn't dim anyone, it simply allows the world to see more clearly. You no longer live as a weary warrior. The sword is set down, the shield is removed. You don't need armor to be loved. You don't need to push yourself to be recognized. From this moment on, you live as an awakened leader. No shouting to be heard, no pushing to be seen. You just stand, and your presence alone shakes the room. You lead not with force, but with depth, with a stillness that draws others toward their own truth, with the fire you carry not to burn, but to melt the ice around them. The world doesn't need more noise. The world needs people brave enough to live truly, without apology. You are a gentle reminder that you can live fully while keeping your heart intact. You haven't come to fit in. You've come to clear the path, not for chaos, but for light. Not for ego, but for the weary souls out there to see another possibility. And if anyone ever asks, "When did you change?" smile and whisper, "When I finally let go of the version that once saved me, but was no longer truly me." From this day forward, you step into the lead role of your own life. No backdrop, no director, no rehearsals, just you, authentic, abundant, and as radiant as you were born to be. Thank you for walking with me to the deepest layers of this story. I wish you, with all my heart, a beautiful journey with yourself, without rush, without doubt, without neglecting the light within. May you find peace on the path back to yourself, the person you've always been allowed to become.